a beautiful Padauk ring stand. Actually, it's a Padauk, and I'm not sure what kind of burl this is. So, long story short, I was walking through the woods with my son and his friend, and I tripped. I looked to see what I tripped over. I thought it was a rock, and I give it a boot. And a big chunk of this came out. And when I cleaned the mud and the ants and everything off of it, I was like, oh my God. Well, I've got a few other ones of these that I'm going to show off. The Padauk came from an old gentleman who, he had sailboats. He sailed to the Caribbean and back with his boat. And then he tore his boat apart and a couple of other boats. And he gave me the remnants of what he had left. He was an older fella. He was using the wood to make fine Italian cars and things like that, little trinkets for his wife. And he explained to me that his son wasn't into these kinds of things, and he wanted to not burn his wood. He wanted to give it to someone who would use it for something. And I assured him that I would use every piece of that wood in my creations to tell a story, but also so that it didn't go to waste, which is exactly what he didn't want. So with that, I've got a whole bowl of different rings, different types of wood. Gave me a couple of really nice thick chunks of catalogs, which here I've turned into some beautiful ebony rings for my wife. Here is, and they've both got two different finishes, but this is a Padauk ring, and my wife's friend has a matching one, and my daughter has a matching one. So the three of them match. My wife matches with all of her stuff too. At least I try to keep it matching so that they're fashionable. What lady doesn't love jewelry, or a husband that doesn't make her jewelry? There was another piece of wood in there. This is the piece here. I don't know what wood this is. I was only a small piece, and there was some writing on it, but I couldn't see the writing. I just polished these with a bit of just paraffin wax and mineral oil, something I came up with. I love the look of mineral oil on things. I don't think I would put it on any of these rings or anything anymore. It kind of darkened them up to the point where you can't see. You can't see. Here's the infamous paper ring. I got a couple of pieces of plain Jane maple that I cut in the yard. There's a couple of veneers that I got from the same old fella. And then I put 4 or 5 strips of purple construction paper segmented into the center. It blew apart a couple of times. Should have used epoxy instead of CA glue. But nonetheless, it turned out decent. My wife likes it. Cracked a little bit. I've got some black walnut. This one cracked on me too. I had to glue it back together. There's the crack there. Tried to put a veneer in it, but sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. This ring is mine. I cut basswood on my Cricut machine, put the segments together, and then I made this all by hand with a drill, a knife, and sandpaper sitting by my fire pit. Could have done a little better, but not bad. This was my third ring that I ever made. There's my walnut ring, or my wife's walnut ring. This is a piece of oak. This was done by hand before I got into turning. My wife's turned out a little better than mine did. That was the 2x6 bowl that matches some of the other ones I got. I think out of an 8-foot piece I made like 15 bowls out of it, and an urn too actually. I made quite a few things out of that 2x6. Well, for $5 you can make a whole heap of stuff. And this here is just a simple piece of maple. We bored a hole in it, sanded it to perfection. A bowl full of homemade rings, custom made.